Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. And be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. When the Saints do kick off the 2021 season, we know that they will have a new quarterback, and it very likely will be Jameis Winston. And there has been much discussed about Jameis Winston here, especially since Drew Brees retired and Winston re-signed with the New Orleans Saints. And Winston did an interview with Steve Weish and Jim Trotter on the Huddle and Flow podcast. And one of the things, and I would recommend anybody go listen to the interview. It really was a great interview. One of the things, though, that really stood out the most in this interview was Jameis Winston talking about being a game manager. Now, typically in football, when we throw out the term game manager, we know what that means. It's a title reserved for players that aren't elite. If you can't go win the game, you're a game manager. We need you just to not turn it over and get the ball to the playmakers and rely on your defense and just manage the game, right? Just don't screw it up. That's often what we think of when we hear game manager. No one's ever going to refer to Tom Brady as a game manager. No one's ever going to refer to Patrick Mahomes as a game manager. There are guys in this league, maybe Ryan Tannehill, game manager. Whether you want to agree with that or not, you can have the debate, but you understand what I mean. Elite quarterbacks are never referred to as game managers. But that's exactly what Jameis Winston kind of said he wants to be able to adopt moving forward in 2021.
In the course of being an NFL quarterback, there are a lot of plays where when you have talent, you say, I can do this, I can do that. But really learning how to manage the game, I never wanted to be deemed a game manager. You know what I'm saying? People always call me a gunslinger. You know, in high school, they even call me a dual threat quarterback. But I always view myself as a pocket passer and a guy that can stretch the ball down the field. But really, that game management is not a bad piece. That's something that I think just comes with being a professional quarterback. Being able to not just only do the things that you can do, but being able to do the things that you should not do.
How about that? Not only doing things you can do, but not doing the things you should not do. This actually makes a ton of sense. Hear me out here, okay? Basically, throughout his career, college and pro, the more Jameis was asked to do, it was to the detriment of the team. And you may throw your hands in the air and say, well, why do you want that guy? Hear me out. Because the same is true for Drew Brees. Go in the Wayback Machine with me to Jameis' time at Florida State. Remember, he redshirted in 2012, then started as a redshirt freshman in 2013. 14 games. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of numbers. Just follow me here because I'm making a point. You don't need to memorize all this. Just understand the correlation. 384 attempts, completed almost just under 67% of his passes. 4,057 yards, college, mind you. 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. They won the national title. A year later, third-year sophomore, redshirt sophomore, 2014, played one fewer game. Jameis attempted 83 more passes in one fewer game. His second season at Florida State. His completion percentage dropped by 4%. I'm sorry, by 3%. He threw for 3,907 yards, so about 160 yards less. Again, on 80 more attempts. Threw for fewer yards, completed fewer passes, had 15 fewer touchdowns, and 8 more interceptions. Understand, they asked him to throw the ball more, and every single metric was negatively affected by it. Now, look at 2019, when he was in Tampa Bay in 2019. Career high in attempts, 626. Completion percentage of 60% was the second lowest of his career. But he had a career high in yardage, and touchdowns, but also career high in interceptions. They asked him to throw the ball more than he had his entire career, and the result was negative. Again, let me point out Drew Brees. Drew Brees' time in New Orleans, if you look at his most productive passing seasons, his career high was 2011. 5,400 passing yards, and that Saints team was incredible. We know it. But the most interceptions he threw in a season was in 2010, 22 interceptions. That team, as you might recall, went 10-6. They were a wild card, one and done in the playoffs when they lost out in Seattle. He threw 19 interceptions in 2012. That team, you might remember, was 7-9, didn't make the playoffs. 18 interceptions in 2007. That team also did not make the playoffs. 17 interceptions in 2008, also did not make the playoffs. And also 17 interceptions in 2014, a team that went 7-9 and did not make the playoffs. My point is, with the exception of the 2011 season, the more Sean Payton asked Drew Brees to throw the football, the less effective the Saints offense was and the more interceptions Drew Brees threw. That's not just in the last year. I'm talking about through his prime. In 2007 and 2008, he had 18 and 17 interceptions in those years respectively. Those were teams that went 8-8 and 7-9, didn't make the playoffs. The bottom line is, if you surround a quarterback with better talent, then there's no need to force it. Surround your quarterback with a better team, and you don't need him to go be Superman on the field. You don't need him to make the extraordinary plays. You need him to turn the ball and hand off to Alvin Kamara, or throw the ball to Kamara in the flat, or find Mike Thomas over the middle. You don't need to score 28 points a game, because your defense isn't giving up a 20 a game. Do you realize Tampa Bay in 2019 was 29th in the NFL at 28.1 points per game allowed? Only 4 teams in the NFL allowed more points than the Bucs did in 2019, Jameis' last year there, when he threw the 30 interceptions. Again, I know we've talked about this a lot, and we're going to talk about it more because Jameis Winston's going to be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. So you can't get around this conversation. It's no longer should they sign Jameis. He's on the team, y'all. He's going to be the starting quarterback this year, barring something unforeseen where, I don't know if they make a trade or something. I mean, they signed him. He's going to be the guy. So we need to start really dissecting who he is, and what he has been, what he can be for New Orleans this year so this team can have its best chance of success. And what the numbers bear out from the time he was in high school, in college, all the way through his time in Tampa Bay is that he can be a really effective quarterback in a sweet spot. But if you ask him to set career highs in passing attempts like he did in 2019 in Tampa Bay with 80 passing attempts more, or like he did that year in Tallahassee where he had 80 passing attempts more in his second year than he did in his first, and every metric dropped, there is a point of diminishing returns. The more you ask him to pass, the less effective he's going to be. So find that sweet spot. We've always talked about this with Sean Payton's teams. Sean Payton's teams are best when they are balanced. The 2009 Saints offense is the best offense they had, and they were third in the NFL in rushing. If you remember that team, they had Pierre Thomas, they had Reggie Bush, they had Mike Bell, who came in late. He was a closer for that offense. That's where they've always been their best. Balance. And they can be really good. I think they will be. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.